Hi, and welcome to Healing Herbal Expedition, where we explore all things gardening, herbs, and aromatherapy. As we continue with our gardening for this spring, one of the things that I really needed to do was clean out my herb bed, so I thought I'd bring you guys along and let you see what it is that I'm going to do. I had some rosemary that was planted last year that didn't quite make it. It's catnip, and I have a sage plant that I would think I want to leave here, but then there's this leftover stuff from my lemongrass that I need to get out. So there are several things that I need to get out. There are little weeds that are starting to grow, as well as some yarrow that was in this bed that I no longer want in this bed. So I'm going to get those things cleaned out and maybe amend the soil, add some fresh soil to it. But I have two that I'm going to clean out. This one has some goldenrod, and I'm not sure what that is. But then there are lots of holy basil seeds, so I'm kind of on the fence and trying to decide what it is that I'm going to do with that. So I'm going to bring you all along, see what it is I do to get this cleaned out, get it ready for some fresh plants. So let's go. First thing I'm going to do is dig out this rosemary that was here last year. That came out pretty easily. Here I have a sage plant that is really struggling to make it. So what I think I'm going to do is leave this. I'm going to cut off these parts that I think are kind of dead, but the part that is bringing forth new leaves, I'm going to leave it to see whether or not it will survive. But I think the toughest thing that I have to do is to get this lemongrass out. So I'm going to kind of wet the soil a little bit down at the base of this lemongrass that was left over from last year. Let's see if I can get this out fairly easy. I have a couple of hand tools that are with me, that I have with me right here. See if I can get this up with any ease or without ease. Nevertheless, I need to get it up and get it out of the bed. Another weed that just happens to be growing here, so I'm going to basically just getting weeds out, getting old plants out, and getting ready for the new. Yesterday I went to the nursery and picked up some starters, and I want to go ahead and get those in. I think we're going to get some rain Monday night into Tuesday morning, and I'd like to have my starter plants placed where I want them to be for them to receive the benefits of that good rainwater. Lemongrass kind of grows in clumps, and this is quite a clump that I'm having to dig out here. I still smell the lemon. It still has a lemony scent. Well, pour it out of my way. But the root is still down in there. The clump of the roots is still down in there, so I still got to work to get that out my garden bed. Last year I wasn't so diligent. By the end of the season I was just tired, and I didn't take the kind of care that I should have taken to prepare my bed. But this year I'll do better. I think this is going to be the hardest one, or the most difficult one to get released. And after I get this out, I think it'll be smooth sailing. And I believe that we're pretty close. Woo, there we go. I don't want to take all of this soil with me, so let's see. I really liked the performance of the lemongrass last year when I had it in the garden bed. So now that we have that out, we're going to go ahead and clean other debris. I see some leaves here. I'm not sure what those leaves are. I think they're just some weeds. But I'm going to go ahead and get those things cleared on out of here so that we'll be ready for this season's growing. I also have some lettuce seeds that I'd like to plant before it gets too warm. So I may just clear this bed out and save it for my lettuce. You'll see. These tiny weeds that are in here, I'm trying to pull them up by the roots because I don't want them springing back up later on. So I'm taking the time to get all of the little seedlings. So I'm going to go ahead and get this catnip up, and I'm going to place this. I'm thinking about placing it in the ground, but I'm going to try to go ahead and get this dug up. I went and got a couple of containers. I don't know what size pot I'm going to need to put this in, but we're going to see if we can get it up. There we go. That one wasn't much trouble at all. And I'm going to sit it here for the time being until I have a chance to plant that somewhere else. And now starts the fun part. Just trying to get some of the debris and some of the trash out of here so we can get it ready to go. Oh, I forgot about the yarrow. There is some yarrow Yarrow is a fantastic plant. Not only does it have good medicinal properties, but it also is very drought tolerant and take a whole lot of abuse and still hang around. So I'm going to put this out in the yard because I put some other yarrow in the yard earlier, a couple of weeks ago. And if I can get the root of this up, I'll take these plants that I had here and put them out in the yard as well. Looks like I got all 3 plants. I don't know how that'll do, but we'll see how it fares. And now, with the exception of this sage that's hanging on for dear life, I think I am going to go ahead and kind of amend the soil and get it ready for its next crop. Now, the question is going to be, shall I go ahead and get these plants put in here that I purchased yesterday at the nursery, or should I do something different? It might be the better idea to get those put in here. I am going to take, I have a garden tool that's kind of like a hand rake, and just kind of break up the soil some. Remember, there's sage right there that I'm trying not to disturb, so I'm going to leave that where it is. The thing to remember is when you're planting your herbs or your garden is, remember the purpose. Like, I have a culinary bed up front, so I don't need as much, but these beds that are in the back will be my medicinal beds. And so I know that when I get ready to dry the plants, I'm going to need quite a bit of plant material in order to have enough to make it through the winter season. So I do want to put more than one plant in when I get these started. I'm going to go ahead and add some garden soil or some potting soil to this bed. Finish with this bag. I think the plants that will be in here will be primarily perennials, so they'll come back year after year. All right, I'm back with you, and I prepared a few things. I've gotten my bed all cleaned out and decided that this would be my familiar herb garden, that I will place several Mediterranean herbs in, herbs that originated in that region. So I have some sage here, I have basil, I have thyme, which is lemon thyme, and I have some oregano. So I'm going to go ahead and get these planted. I decided not to get rid of this little one that was left from last year. I'm going to cut it down because I can see that it's trying to put out leaves, and so we'll see what happens with that. So I'll put this, which is some common sage. I'm going to place this right next to the sage that was here last year. And sage is one of your perennial plants, so I can count on it being here year after year. And sage usually lasts a pretty good while in this region. I mean, I've had sage still fresh and ready for me to pick up until like the Thanksgiving season. So typically it continues for quite a while in this region. I have 2 sage plants, and so this area primarily will be for sage. These are both Salvia officinalis, because I always say you need to know the Latin names. So the Latin names for this, and this root system is really beautiful. It hasn't started to become root bound, so this should do quite well once I get it set in. And I am going to, once I get this all done, I'm going to water these plants in quite nicely. I think they're pretty firmly in. While I'm here dealing with the sage, I'm going to get my garden tool and go ahead and clip off these ends, because I don't want my plant trying to put energy into this dead stem. And I'm thinking that we'll go ahead and see some new growth sprouting here pretty soon. The next thing that I'm going to do is take this Greek oregano, and I'm going to place that in this area, and it has a tendency to spread quite a bit of the soil that it was in initially here with this, but it is really dry, so I'm gonna have to water it and get it in pretty good so it can get off to a good start. But I've put some high quality garden soil down, and I think that it'll do all right, but the soil that came with it is so hard. I'm gonna really water over this plant. So we have our Greek oregano, we have our sage. I am going to plant some basil here, and this area has room for another familiar herb. I'm not sure which one I'm going to put here with it, but wait a minute, I read somewhere that I shouldn't put my sage next to, my basil next to my thyme, so I think I will put it here. This was starting to become root bound, so I'm glad I'm getting this. It's not very hard, but I'm kind of breaking up the roots a little bit so that they can go ahead to spread in its new home, the new soil that it's going in. And it is a little bit dry, so I have some water here. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of water around where I'm planting this. Go ahead and get that in real nicely. In Oklahoma, we have a lot of red clay dirt, and this was actually in quite a bit of that red clay dirt. So I'm putting some water on top, and then I'm also going to place some water in the water reservoir here. I've gotten some dirt in here as I was planting, but I'm going to put some water in there, kind of keep my plants well hydrated, and I'm sure those roots will start to reach for the water that's at the bottom. Now, for the last thing that I'll put in this garden bed today, I have some lemon thyme. I love lemon thyme. It is my favorite variety. Its Latin name is Thymus citrus, I think. But anywho, I have some sweet marjoram. I was thinking about putting this inside the ground, but I think I am going to go ahead and get it planted here because I want to make sure that it gets a home and doesn't sit out too long. Well, this one was really beginning to become root bound, so I'm going to kind of break these roots up a bit so that they can go ahead and spread. I'm going to also probably give this a good trim once it gets settled in its new home so that it can start to branch out and bush out. Okay, so what we've accomplished this afternoon, we have cleaned out my garden bed. We have got some new plants potted. I have sweet basil, Greek oregano, regular garden sage, sweet marjoram, and lemon thyme all planted in this bed. I've cleaned out, semi-cleaned out this other garden bed. With this bed, I have quite a bit. Last year I let my holy basil go to seed, and it dropped a lot of seed in the bed, and I'm trying to see how much holy basil comes up before I decide to plant other things in there, because if I get a ton of holy basil, I want a ton of holy basil because it is a good herb to have around. And then over here I have peppermint, and I'm going to take this peppermint out because I need this garden bed for other things, but I haven't decided where I'm going to put the peppermint, so I think I'm going to let it stay for now. The last thing that I have left to do is to go ahead and fill up my water reservoir. I'm going to get that filled so that the plants will be getting fed from the bottom, and hopefully those roots will still reaching deep to get that water, and things will start to take off. I'll bring you back for a garden tour a little bit later on in the season, maybe in about 3 weeks. 2 weeks, to see how well these things are doing since I got them planted. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, please put them down below in the comment area. Please like, share, and subscribe if you find this information useful or you know someone that it would be helpful for. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I wish you peace and fragrant blessings from my home to yours.